How do we NIO investors participate in the benefits of an IPO of NIO investments? Welcome everybody back on the channel, and especially shout out to my patrons who are supporting this channel. This was actually one of the questions from one of our patrons in the community chat, and so I want to discuss a little bit here. For example, we have this news around WeLion. This is the 150 kilowatt hour battery pack that is going to be placed in or swapped into NIO vehicles over time for those who want to and can afford this big battery with a range of, on paper, 1,000 kilometers. And the news is that this company, it's actually a Beijing company, a small startup, wants to IPO by 2025. So this fellow patron member, he asked how we actually participate with the benefits of such an IPO. And there's no simple answer to it, to be frank. But for the case of WeLion, actually NIO is holding a direct stake in the company. I've uncovered this more than 1 year ago. Actually, back then, nobody really knew who's going to do the battery for NIO, but I found some business registration hints for it, and I could find a direct link between NIO and one of their subsidiary companies towards this actual company who's producing the battery. So they actually do have a direct stake with that, well, via sorts of some of the connections, but a shareholding stake in this company. And so in case WeLion is planning an IPO and they are doing this, technically this should increase the stake or the value of the stake that NIO owns in that company. Now, I would argue that NIO is a public listed company, but I would say that most of the investors don't go down the rabbit hole and look into all of the NIO investments. For example, here, NIO Capital is listing all of these different investments that are being made. But in this case, it's actually even a different entity. So NIO Capital is not the same company as NIO. NIO doesn't have a stake directly in NIO Capital. They may have given some funding to it. I'm not sure actually about the actual amount of it, but it's chaired by the same person, Li Bin, the CEO of NIO, and NIO Capital also have the same chairman here. And so investors would have to go through each of these investments that are listed on this on this page here from NIO Capital, as well as in addition to all of the investments that NIO has taken directly, such as WeLion, and look into each of those cases and see how NIO is actually involved in that. Because for each of the cases, it's different. For WeLion, for example, as I mentioned, there's a direct shareholder structure, and this would mean if, let's say, WeLion becomes $1 trillion company, let's just assume that. At that point in time, it would be such a significant stake that this should actually be increasing the share price of NIO, because of course the valuation of that would need to be implied. But for those little investments at the early stages that there are currently, as well as especially for all of those NIO Capital investments, it's super hard to give it a current valuation and how this would actually benefit NIO shareholders. There are many different ways how the NIO Capital investment in Lotus, for example, or Innovision, or Outerlink, CATL, Alton, Pony AI, Momenta. So these are a couple of big names. Also, XPT is actually a 100% NIO-owned company. So you see, some of these are really just small startups. For example, Black Sesame here, which by the way is also doing an IPO in Hong Kong, filing for it. And then there was also WeRide, which is a ride-hailing platform and self-driving technology, in which also NIO had a stake in. Each of these sort of investments have a different structure and a different way how they are going to benefit NIO over time. We also had NREO coming from NIO Capital, so that's the AR, VR glasses, which have been incorporated basically in the product. And we don't know exactly how there is maybe benefits, for example, for procuring these products, maybe at a better rate, who knows, or maybe exclusively. Those sort of deals are very different for each of them. but they are kind of incubated, accelerated, and always with the oversight of NIO in this kind of a curation here. And somewhat it's telling us a lot of where NIO will be going in the future and what kind of stuff they see as their vision and the ecosystem going forward. So the short answer again, yes, there will be some direct impact at this at some point in time in one way or the other. For WeLion, this will have benefits for NIO shareholders at some point in time. However, to quantify that and to see exactly what it means for each of these cases is a very time-consuming task, for which I would argue most investors out there are currently not doing it.